Okay.
All right.
Hello. Welcome to Archaeologists Behaving Badly. I'm Belle,
I'm Raquel.
and this is episode
20.
So, episode 19, we did on Aztecs.
Yeah.
And Raquel, who does all of the editing because she's amazing,
Oh my gosh.
when she edited it, it was just a bit too hectic.
Yeah, it was very heavy. And we didn't really think about that going into it because we're looking at it as like really interesting stuff to talk about, cool topic. And then as we did it, it just
Yeah.
got heavy.
I did the sort of mythology of the Aztecs, and even like while we were filming it, I think I skipped some towards the end because it was just a bit too much.
Yeah.
And we got a bit awkward, and
yeah.
so we've just made the decision to release that episode only on Patreon. We thought about releasing it with a trigger warning.
Yeah.
But then we've just decided to release it on Patreon.
Yeah.
We will do another episode on Aztecs.
That's maybe a little bit less heavy, a little bit less hectic. It was just, yeah. I mean, some of the, yeah. I didn't expect it to go that way.
Yeah.
And like I said, really interesting things that we talked about. But it's just very heavy, very violent.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. Anyway, so if you really want to like watch it, do so on Patreon. We're probably going to release it in the next couple of days. So it'll be up there soon. And, you know, you can watch it there. Like I said, very interesting still.
So that's what happened to episode 19. And why we didn't release an episode this week, we just thought we'll leave that.
Yeah, we'll park it.
Yeah.
So this episode, we actually had filmed last year sometime, but we never released it because that was towards the end when we took the break. But it's famous battles. And a million to choose from, so we just picked a few, obviously. But, you know, battle archaeology is a thing in its battlefield archaeology is a thing in itself. Like a sub.
I feel like that's what a
discipline.
lot, particularly in the UK, but maybe broader Europe, a lot of detectorists, like metal detector users, get stuff from battlefields.
True. And also the US.
Yeah, true.
I kind of stumbled down that road. I don't talk anything about it, but like the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and stuff, and how, you know, a lot of amateur archaeologists and detectorists usually, you know, go to those places because they want to find, you know, battle
Stuff related to the
you know, which is obviously really important battles that shaped what Europe and what the US is like today. Honestly, they're very important. Nothing that I've done before. I've never done anything like that.
No.
But super interesting.
Yeah.
To like find something like a defining piece of history.
Yeah.
From a defining moment in history that changed the course of a nation. Or I think it's really cool. And really interesting. Anyway,
It's me.
it's you.
It's me.
Welcome.
So the first little one I was going to talk about was the Emu Wars, which
I'm so happy about this and excited.
I did talk about in the episode that we didn't release, but we were both drunk.
Lucky
so
I was too drunk because I don't remember much of it, but
Very
I do
cute.
remember
that you loved it.
I loved it. My mind was blown, especially being an Australian.
So there are a few podcast episodes. If you listen to history podcasts, you probably will have heard of the Emu Wars. I looked it up recently. Actually, there's a movie that came out on ABC about the Emu Wars.
What?
That's like a fictionalized, I think.
Oh my God.
maybe last year it was released.
Oh my goodness.
So we might have to watch that tonight.
Oh my
maybe.
God, that's a good idea.
So the Emu Wars, in the event you don't know what an emu is, they are a really big bird. They kind of look like an ostrich, but they're native to Australia.
Big.
They're flightless. They're 6 or 7 foot tall.
They're very intimidating.
Yeah.
Huge.
And they're very fast.
Very fast.
Not as fast as the ostrich, but they're a very similar bird. So in 1932, Australia officially declared war on roughly around 20,000 emus.
Like legitimately.
And lost. They lost. We lost.
We lost the war, guys.
So it began after World War One, so around 1915. The Australian government was having trouble finding employment for soldiers that were returning from war. So they started giving soldiers land so that the soldiers could begin farming. And usually that was either sheep or wheat.
Okay.
By 1920, most of the good land had kind of run out.
Okay. Been snapped up.
So they were giving away land from like more arid, remote areas. And so a lot of like the Emu Wars take place in Western Australia, which is, if you don't know, Western Australia is a state that takes up almost half of our country.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge and it's mostly desert.
Yeah.
And it's obviously difficult to farm desert land.
Yeah.
In 1929, the Great Depression hit and wheat prices dropped dramatically. So these kind of already struggling farmers were then not able to sell
enough. Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Or what they were selling wasn't
getting enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a plan by the Australian government.
Like, good try. A for effort, guys.
A for effort.
So on top of the depression, there were thousands and thousands of emus living on the wheat farms.
Just living their best life.
Eating the crops or flattening and killing the crops by sitting on them and just...
They're just chilling.
Just chilling on the crops.
Yeah.
And crushing them. So because of this, they were reclassified as a protected species, which they were at the time, to vermin, to pests.
Wow. So they were already classified as like a okay.
Which, yeah, is interesting because I wouldn't have thought that back then they would have had protected species at all.
Yeah. Okay, well that's a big jump to make from protected species to
pest.
To pest.
So by 1932, there was over 20,000 emus destroying crops and also damaging fences that had been put in to keep rabbits out.
Okay, yeah.
So rabbits were also destroying the crops because the emus had...
Basically, all the animals in Australia were just destroying everything. Love it.
So, the war veterans come farmers started trying to kill them.
To protect
their crops. Because there were so many emus, the farmers asked the government for help. And so the government sent in the Royal Australian Artillery, so the military.
So good.
It's really good. And they were brought in with 2 Lewis light machine guns, I'm guessing Lewis is a type of machine gun. I didn't look that up.
So they came like for business.
They
like,
came with 2 machine guns.
They woke up. They chose violence. They
were like, let's get rid of them.
Yep. Machine gun.
We need the wheat.
We need the wheat. Protect the wheat at all costs. Yeah.
When the military came in, the attack was delayed because of rains, and then when they finally started an assault on the emus, the birds they had, when they made their plan, they hadn't really accounted for it being a wild animal and it being one of the fastest animals.
So they were treating it as like they were humans. All right. So like
that was that was the plan. So they come in, they start shooting them, and the birds like split off into smaller groups, but also just start going in like all directions everywhere really quickly. So they couldn't
predict where they're going to go.
They've come in like a formation, and the emus are just zipping off everywhere. So they couldn't really kill them the way they wanted to. Two days into the operation, they found a flock of 1,000 emus. And so for this is a couple of days in, they've established they can't do it the way they had planned on doing it. So they sort of waited for this group of emus to come closer to them before they opened fire. But this particular battle, only 10 were killed before one of the machine guns jammed. I guess because it's 1932 and it's old machinery, old guns.
Yeah.
It jammed.
That's insane though. Only 10. What, out of 1,000? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's not looking good.
And so they considered that battle a loss. So then they began driving the machine guns that they had around on the back of trucks to try and move while the emus were moving. But obviously with a rickety old gun on a rickety old truck with a moving target, they weren't very successful. And one of the trucks crashed into a farmer's fence because it hit an emu, and the emu got tangled up in the steering wheel. Oh, which is awful. So I guess they hit it and it like came over.
Yeah. And it got caught up in the machinery and stuff.
Got tangled up. So that was also a lost battle.
Kamikaze emus, just, doing what they can for the big fight.
Sad though.
It is sad, yeah.
After 6 days, the military had used a quarter of their ammunition, but only a couple of hundred emus had been killed.
That's insane. That's crazy. And what did you say, 20,000?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
A New South Wales politician at the time suggested men participating in this war should be awarded medals, but a federal politician in Western Australia said that the medals should go to the emus because they were winning the war.
They were winning the war?
They were winning the war.
Oh my God.
So then there was another battle, but only 40 birds were killed, and a couple of days later, Major Meredith, who I didn't look him up, he came back to kill more, but he only killed a few. Soon, reports were coming in saying that 100 emus were being killed every week, but when they looked at the ratio of ammunition that they were using to kill those roughly 100 every week, they realized they were using over 10 bullets to kill one emu.
That's insane.
Because they were so fast, they were just having to like fire and fire and fire until they hit them.
Almost like a random, just like shoot somewhere and hope for the best that you actually like catch one.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And someone said, I don't know if this quote was taken from a 1953 article, so a couple of decades later, but I think the quote itself is from someone at the time. If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it could face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. So they were still talking about it in 1953 in the media.
I mean...
Which I think means it was still... The emus were probably still a
problem. Yeah. I mean, that's crazy that we were talking about it for that long. That it was such like an integral part of Western Australian life, and that's insane.
They were vermin. So, in 1934, it was contended that the Emu War was over and that the emus had won the war. So from here, guerrilla warfare started. So the government started giving out ammunition to anyone that wanted it to kill them.
Yeah.
And so it was just like farmers / war veterans against the emus without the military. And I think within 6 months, 6 months in 1934, 57,000 emus were killed.
Wow.
So once they
actually got rid of the military, the military groups that were still active,
and it was just people on the land.
Yeah,
it
was way more effective,
and they killed a lot of them.
I'm just so intrigued to see how this movie is going to look.
I think, I don't know if it's it said comedy.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if it's like what's that?
We need to watch it.
What's that killer sheep like it's New Zealand or Tasmania. You haven't seen it? It's
what are you talking about?
It's probably from like 20 years ago, but it's like a killer sheep horror movie.
What?
And I can't remember if it's Tasmania or New Zealand. But I'm wondering if it's going to be kind of like that. If it's going to be stupid. Or if it's a comedy that's kind of historically accurate.
I think
we'll find
we need to do a review on it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's pretty good. Today, emus are a protected species.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they weren't for a while.
So until we just killed enough of them and we're like, oh, okay, like we can put them back on the list. No one touched them anymore.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure people still eat them, do they?
I'm sure they do. I mean, I haven't seen... we eat kangaroo. You can eat crocodile.
Because I think we talked about that briefly when we did the battle episode, and I talked about...
Oh, okay, yeah.
That we're one of 2 or 3 countries in the world that eat the animal that's on our national crest.
I thought that was always a rumour.
No,
that's true.
True.
Yeah.
We're not the only one, but we're one of maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah,
because we definitely eat kangaroo.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about emu.
And also, like, kangaroos, especially people who live out, like, in the bush or, like, outside of, like, inner city. You know, kangaroos are also kind of seen as pests. Well, they're
considered...
Like, they're...
Kind of pests.
Like, you know, you can... You know... You can
hunt them.
You can hunt them, yeah. And you eat them. Personally, I don't like kangaroo. I've had kangaroo before, like in like sausages and stuff, and it's something you have to cook perfectly, I think, for it to be like good. But there's like, I don't know if it's like gamey or something, or I don't think it's gamey, but I don't know. It's like a weird taste. There's something about it that
I really like it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you eat it like fillets, or do you have like in like steaks?
I've more had it in like meat patties or sausages.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's a different taste.
yeah.
Apologies to any vegetarians or vegans.
Sorry. Not sorry. But
Yeah, so that's the Emu Wars. So the next one I did is a really, really short one. I did the Battle of Sapolino, which was a little war fought between the Italian towns of Bologna and Medina in November 1325. So
Ooh.
medieval
yeah.
Italy.
Back in the day.
It was the only large-scale engagement during the so-called War of the Oaken Bucket.
Oh my God. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. It was instigated by the soldiers of Medina, who went inside the territory of Bologna to steal a bucket from the city's well, like the city's main well.
As like a prank?
Well, it didn't say, and I also don't know if they were stealing water and then they took the bucket, or if they were just stealing the bucket because it was a nice bucket. I don't know.
Or just to like piss them off.
Or just to piss them off.
Rival,
Yeah.
petty rival shit.
If it's the main well and we
fuck
take
you
the
guys.
bucket.
Yeah. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah. So this was not taken well by the Bolognese people. I'm guessing this is where bolognese the pasta sauce comes from.
Delicious.
Very delicious. So it wasn't taken well by the Bolognese people when the Medina forces refused to give the bucket back.
Rude.
Very rude.
How rude.
So at the time, there was a larger war going on, and these, like the Bolognese and the Medina people, were on different sides of the larger war going on.
Yeah.
So the Bolognese were very upset and felt disrespected by the act of not giving the bucket back.
I mean, fair enough.
Fair enough. And so this resulted in them declaring war on the Medina, specifically over the bucket. And they decided to invade to get their bucket back with a force of 30,000 armed foot soldiers.
What?
And 2,000 cavaliers.
What?
30,000 foot soldiers for a
bucket? I'm sorry. Shouldn't they not be fighting this war? What's going on there?
Whatever the bigger war is. Yeah.
They're like, no, this is way more serious, guys.
It's really serious.
We need the bucket. It's a matter of principle.
It is a matter of principle.
Fuck the war going on. Stand up for your bucket.
And so the city of Medina was defended by only 5,000 foot soldiers and also 2,000 cavaliers. But within 2 hours of the Bolognese getting there, the Medina troops had rerouted the invaders and chased them out. Even though they didn't have as many people, they just did some like smarter warfare tactics. This move. We're dumb. So the Medina soldiers supposedly chased them all the way back to Bologna, destroying as much as they could along the way, including castles.
So just casually sieging.
They took the bucket. They tried the Bolognese tried to get the bucket back, but the people who took the bucket chased them out of the city, even though they had less people, and chased them all the way back
to where they came
from, and destroyed stuff along the way.
Sacked places along the way.
Yep. And so
this is incredible.
The unconquered bucket is still kept. Oh. The unconquered bucket is still kept in the main bell tower of the city of Medina today.
Whoa.
They still have it.
I wonder if there's still beef.
There would
Like, you know
bolognese,
what I mean?
yeah. Sorry.
That was great, actually.
I'm proud. I am both proud and embarrassed of that pun that you accidentally made.
Yeah, sorry, I fell into that one. That's crazy. I bet you there's still like, I bet
There
you
would
there's
have to
still
be
an animosity. Those fucking thieves.
If you are from either of those towns or know anyone from there,
True.
let us know if there's still a Bologna Medina
Feud.
thing.
I can
And
imagine.
we'll put up a picture of the bell,
the
the
bucket.
bell,
The bucket?
the bucket
In the bell tower.
in the bell tower.
You know what?
Sorry.
I can totally imagine, you know, like the old, like nonnos and stuff.
Hating people.
Hating on it, you know what I mean? Like having having something to say about it.
Yeah.
I can imagine that. And I'm here for it.
Well, it's like we've had your bucket for 700 years. We're better than you.
Incredible.
So those were my two very cute, very dumb battle stories.
I love it. I love them. I'm so obsessed with the Emu War. I'm like,
The Emu Wars is
we lost.
ridiculous.
Australia lost. We lost the emus. We lost, and that's fucking
Embarrassing.
hilarious. Yeah, embarrassing and hilarious.
I follow a woman on Instagram she's American and she has a farm in the States, but she has a couple of emus and they are very funny. Maybe when we post this episode, I'll put
I think I've seen
Well, I've probably sent or shared
maybe.
one of her
And it's very sassy.
One of her emus is called Karen.
Yeah, and it
tries to attack her all the time.
Yeah, like sassy as fuck.
Yeah.
So much attitude.
I'll share.
We'll put a link.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
They're very funny animals. But yes, that's it for me. So now it's your turn.
Okay. All right. I have too much. So I have a couple, and I don't know if I'll share them all because, as usual, I just go down weird tangents.
And you write a lot.
I do write a lot.
It's better than...
I don't know. Sometimes quality is better than quantity, especially maybe for a podcast. Anyway, so the first one I wanted to talk about is the Pastry War. Have you heard of the Pastry
have not.
War? One of the most... Okay, also, if you can hear rain, I apologise.
It's very weather outside.
It's much weather, many weather.
Many weather.
Many weather. So apologies if you can hear it. Okay.
Pastry War.
The Pastry War. So the Pastry War, also known as the first French intervention in Mexico or the first Franco-Mexican War, was a thing.
It was a thing.
It was a thing.
It happened.
Between 1838 and 1839.
Okay.
So commercial relations between France and Mexico predated Spain's recognition of Mexico's independence in 1830.
Yeah.
So after diplomatic relations were established, France quickly became Mexico's third largest trading partner.
Okay.
However, French goods faced higher taxes because France had not yet secured trade agreements comparable to those established by Mexico's two largest trading partners, the United States and the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So because they weren't like the largest ones, they were kind of getting penalized for it,
Right.
which doesn't seem very fair. I think if you're getting trade, if you have a trade relation, you want to make it as like, as, I don't know, prosperous for everyone as possible. But anyway, that's what happened. So in the early years of the new Mexican Republic, the country was plagued by widespread civil unrest as various factions vied for control. So this conflict frequently led to the destruction of the destruction of property, which included looting, and ordinary citizens found it really difficult to seek compensation due to the lack of representation to advocate on their behalf. So, like, you know, shit was going down.
If their property was destroyed, or their
no one would look into it. Like, it just wasn't, the system wasn't working.
Yeah.
And no one could really get anything rectified if anything bad happened to them or unjust happened to them, basically. So foreigners whose property was damaged or destroyed by rioters or bandits also struggled to obtain compensation from the Mexican government and began seeking assistance from their own countries because the Mexican government just didn't give a shit, basically. Or they just didn't have the resources
to
help them.
Yeah.
So,
which obviously is okay for foreigners there.
Yeah.
But then Mexican people there wouldn't get anything. They don't have a foreign government to go to say, hey,
100%. So it was just, you just basically, I guess you would just pray that nothing like happened to you, because you would always be at a loss, basically. So the story begins by a complaint made to King Louis Philippe, and it was a pastry chef named Monsieur Remontel. He was obviously a French pastry chef, and he claimed that in 1832, Mexican officers looted his shop in Tacubaya. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize, as always. Which was then a town on the outskirts of Mexico City.
Okay.
However, according to Mexican sources, these officers who were part of this Santa Anna's government simply refused to pay their bills. So instead of maybe looting, it was more like, we're not paying for it. They
ordered stuff and they said,
we're not paying for it.
We're cops, we're not paying for it.
Exactly. And Remontel sought 60,000 pesos in reparations for the damage, even though his shop was worth less than 1,000 pesos.
Oh.
So, he really went for it.
He aimed for the stars.
He aimed high. By the way, like, the sum is so enormous. To put it into perspective, the average daily wage in Mexico City was 1 peso.
Oh.
So 60,000,
that's a lot.
A daily wage, not an hourly wage, a daily wage.
I wonder how he argued that claim for that amount.
Maybe he was just so sick of their shit. He was just like, and who knows if this was the first time. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
So the conflict, or the complaint, which gave its name, the Pastry War, along with other grievances from French nationals, including the looting of French shops in 1828 and the execution of a French citizen accused of piracy in 1837, prompted the French Prime Minister Molé in 1838 to demand 600,000 pesos, or 3 million francs, in damages. Sorry, 600? I don't know if that's it. Oh my God, no, I think sorry, I just had a brain, whatever. So he demanded 600,000 pesos, even though I think the pastry chef wanted 60,000.
Okay.
So I think because of all the other shit that was happening,
they were like,
bump it up. Let's bump it up.
Keep bumping it up.
To 600,000 pesos, or 3 million francs. So when the Mexican president failed to make payment, King Louis Philippe ordered Rear Admiral Charles Baudin to blockade all Mexican ports on the Gulf of Mexico and bombard the fortress of San Juan de Ulua and seize Veracruz, the most important port on the Gulf Coast. By December 1838, French forces had captured Veracruz, leading Mexico to declare war on France. Did anyone else know about this? Because
I have never heard of this.
Mexico
declared war on France.
And France were at war.
Over
over a pastry shop. And I think that's just incredible.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. So, meanwhile, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, renowned for his military prowess, came out of retirement to offer his services to the Mexican government, which directed him to fight the French by any means necessary.
Okay, what does that mean?
Santa Anna led Mexican forces in the Battle of Veracruz, where he was wounded in the leg by French gunshot, like basically a gunshot to the leg. His leg was amputated and buried with full military honors. Sorry, his leg was buried with full military honors. I mean, he survived. But he's, a part of him, will be remembered.
Did they
I'm sorry,
give it a little medal, or like what does that
I think so.
mean? What does that mean?
I don't know, but like, it happened. It happened. Where was I?
The leg had been buried with full military honors.
Yes, okay. Full military honors. I would suspect that would mean medals and like maybe like a salute or something. I don't know.
A flag and a
salute. I have a lot of visuals here that would be simply amazing. So using this injury to his advantage, Santa Anna skillfully leveraged the situation to regain political power. I'm not sure how, but I guess maybe like being wounded in battle and like, I don't know. The French forces withdrew on the 9th of March, 1839, after a peace treaty was signed. As part of the said treaty, the Mexican government agreed to pay 600,000 pesos as damages to the French citizens, while France received promises for future trade future trade commitments in place of war indemnities. However, the amount was never paid by the Mexican government. And this was later used as one of the justifications for the second French intervention in Mexico of 1861.
We didn't even know there was a first one.
We didn't even know there was one.
But now there's two.
Yeah. So following the Mexican victory in 1867 and the collapse of the Second French Empire in 1870, Mexico and France would not resume diplomatic relationships until 1880, when both countries renounced claims related to the wars. What?
Freaking pastry wars were actually a thing.
It was actually a thing. All because some French dude living in Mexico basically got hustled for his pastries by the local enforcement. And the French king went to town. And I think that's fucking incredible.
That is amazing.
I had no idea.
No idea.
Did you? I want to know if the people had any idea about this.
Is this something that people have heard of before? Because...
Is it a thing that French people know about? Is it a thing that is it a thing that you get taught in schools? Because what? Just what?
Just what?
What?
We need t-shirts that say just what.
Just what? What? Would you buy it? Tell us. King of Bohemia. Okay, so this one, it's kind of funny in a way, but also kind of sad. I don't know.
Okay.
You make up your mind.
I hope it's not too sad.
It's not too sad, but it's just a bit silly.
Okay.
So John of Bohemia, also known as John the Blind or John of Luxembourg, who was the king of Bohemia from 1310, so similar time period that you were talking about before in Bologna and Medina. So John was king of Bohemia. He was really renowned for his gift of foreign politics. He reached agreements with the Habsburgs and the Saxonies during his reign.
Mm-hmm.
He was really well regarded, I think, in his like strategy and relations and stuff like that. Diplomacy, yeah. He improved international relationships during this time, and he had control of many territories in and around the Czech region. So it's kind of incredible. If you look him up, like, and you see his resume, it's kind of insane. He was also one of the 7 prince electors of the Holy Roman Empire at one point. So this guy had a lot of power. He was really well regarded. And unfortunately, when he was around 39 to 40 years old, sometime around then, he lost his eyesight due to ophthalmia, which I think is basically like an infection that you get in the eyes. And if you don't treat it, you can go blind. And some sources say that was because of smallpox or something.
Okay.
But he totally went blind. Both eyes gone when he was like 40 years old. There was no cure. They tried to cure him. They got like really famous.
How did they try to cure
Well, yeah, I know. That's like a whole...
What weird things were they squirting into his eyes?
Mm. I was actually thinking we should do an episode on like fucked up medical stuff.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good idea.
I think that's a good idea. Let us know if you want to hear more about that.
We'll probably do it anyway.
Whether you like it or not. So, yeah, basically he went permanently blind. But still, even after this, though, he was still considered like a really successful politician, leader, military dude. Even though he was blind, he kind of was just really good at the back end stuff.
So he was still doing stuff.
He was still doing stuff. And I think he traveled a lot during the time he was alive, like heaps. That he was kind of, I don't know, he seemed like a really worldly kind of guy. Kind of cool. So in 1346, the battle
Verily.
Yeah, I couldn't speak the last episode that we put up. I'm so sorry. I was very tired. The Battle of Crecy, I think it's Crecy. It's Crecy or Crecy. I think it's Crecy. I don't know. Took place in northern France between the French army and the English army. Mm-hmm. John controlled an advanced guard on behalf of the French and took part within the battle.
Even though he's blind.
So remember, he's very blind. Totally blind. Not there. Now, the Battle of Crecy was not looking good for the French. In fact, they were very, very much losing. And so he was behind. He was like kind of just hanging out. I was going to say looking at, but clearly he wasn't looking at it. But he was there while the battle was taking place.
Right.
All his advisors are like, it's not looking good. We're losing. We're kind of done for. And so this particular battle had been recorded in like chronicles and stuff. So like people had, wrote about it. And so we have also textual, accounts of what happened on that day. So in the Chronicle of Prague, which is a chronicle written of the time, John was informed that the battle was lost and that he should flee. He replied by saying, "Far be it that the king of Bohemia should run away. Instead, take me to the place where the noise of the battle is at its loudest. The Lord will be with us, nothing to fear. Just take good care of my son." So his son was with him as well at the battle. So,
good parenting.
Good, yeah, true. Hey mate, hey son, let's
go to where it's really happening.
Let's go to where shit's getting real. So he's on a horse, blind, and he ordered his men to strap him and the horse between 2 other knights on horses.
Okay.
And ordered them to charge into the epicenter of the battle. Literally just hooked in and was like, go! And he took his sword out and he died. He very quickly died. That's how he came to his end. And I just think that's incredible. I mean, very courageous, very brave.
Very courageous. Good intentions
and wanting to set a good example, I guess, to his troops and to, but like it was a death sentence. I mean,
it's really dumb. It's a really dumb move.
I mean, it's a really dumb move. Or he's just totally out of his fucking mind and thinking.
Also a possibility.
Very also a possibility.
How much lead was in the water that he was drinking? Everyone was nuts back then.
Everyone was nuts back then. And we don't take that into account enough. Mm-hmm. How much lead were people drinking? So yeah, he died. Probably almost immediately, I would say. But what's really interesting is his remains were then interred at the old abbey in Luxembourg. When the abbey was destroyed in 1543, they were moved to the new abbey. Mm-hmm. During the French Revolution, the abbey's monks entrusted the king's bones to a family who hid them in their attic because they were so scared because of the French Revolution that it would get, taken or destroyed. Subsequently, the bones were presented by that family to the King of Prussia at the time, who claimed descent from John, and had John's bones interred in a chapel on the German side of the border of Luxembourg. John's bones were finally returned to Luxembourg in 1945. In that year, Nazi Germany was on the verge of defeat, and the government of Luxembourg seized the opportunity to retake the king's bones through a covert operation, like cloak and dagger style, and brought them back to the country.
That's awesome.
Where they remain in the crypt of the Notre Dame Cathedral until today. So, I think that's pretty incredible.
Very. Even just the story of his...
I know.
Just the story of his bones.
Yeah, I know.
Getting given to a family.
Yeah, I know.
And
trusted because they were so scared that during the French Revolution, obviously nobility and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a good time to be someone of importance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Incredible. I have another one. And I kind of went on a tangent and I apologize. Because I also feel really dumb. I felt really dumb because, again, we're from Australia, and we are from Australia, correct? And we don't get taught
much.
We're just a bit dumb, and no. When it comes to the intricacies of European politics and history.
No idea.
Unless we've purposefully studied that, we would just have no idea. And I'm sure that's very different for the people that live in Europe and stuff but for us, I just feel dumb all the time, every time I'm researching something. So have you heard of the Battle of the Skates?
No.
So also...
Obviously not.
Obviously not. Also called the Battle of Jesselmeer. It's a Dutch name. I could be saying that wrong. I'm very sorry. So the battle was basically a military engagement. I wouldn't call it a full-scale war, but definitely a small battle. Mm-hmm. That was undertaken in the Netherlands by the Spanish.
Okay.
So for background, the Netherlands was actually ruled by the Spanish Habsburgs.
We've talked about that.
We talked about that when we did the pirate episode.
The big chins, the big incestuous chins.
Yes, yeah. And this occurred during the 80 Years' War between the Spanish Empire and the Netherlands, occurring between 1566 to 1648. Mm-hmm. So to sum up the war as quickly as possible, because it's just, holy shit. 80 years is a long time, and there's a lot of politics going on in that time and a lot of different things that happened in a lot of different areas. So I apologize for how...
And by the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, there's a lot more recording happening. So...
True.
You're getting more detail.
Exactly. So there's a lot to unpack, but basically the Netherlands were occupied by the Habsburgs, and many battles were fought between Spanish forces and rebel groups within the Netherlands who were fighting for Dutch rights, specifically nobility rights. They were fighting against like centralization, reformations, and excessive taxation. So the Spanish had basically put hectic taxes on the Netherlands. The Dutch really struggled with controlling rebel-held territories, and during this 80-year period, there were brief moments of peace, moments of like fighting, moments of loss, moments of control. It was very kind of
Back and forth.
Very back and forth, very convoluted. There was a lot going on. And there's actually a lot of contention on exactly when the war began and when it ended. So some call it just the Dutch War rather than the 80-year war. But
Okay.
it was a long time, 80 years. It's like the 100-year war.
Yeah.
Like it's a long time to be actively
Engaged in
in a military effort. So a major factor of this war was the Spanish pushing to exterminate all Protestantism. I can't speak. Protestantism. That's how you say it. Thank you. Out of the Netherlands, and in classic Spanish style, enforced public executions and inquisition to stamp it out, which we talk a little bit about in the Aztec episode that's on Patreon.
Do we?
Yeah, about the Spanish and basically when they came and annihilated the Aztecs and culture, etc.
As good Catholics
Absolutely.
should.
As they do. So town and cities rebelled throughout the Netherlands and were brutally attacked by the Spanish. And rebellions were systematically fought and quite effectively disbanded by force by the Spanish. In 1579, the pacification of Ghent occurred, which paved the way for the Dutch Republic to be formed, which united 16 of the 17 provinces of the Habsburg provinces against Spanish imperial government. More battles obviously occurred throughout, but like that's just the main kind of general run of what happened. Okay, so the Battle of Skates, also known as the Battle of Jesselmeer, occurred in 1572 when the Spanish dispatched Don Frederick, the son of a Spanish duke, to seize control of the city Haarlem. Now, the city is mostly surrounded by water. So they came in, obviously, by ships, and the Spanish were really well known for their ships.
Maritime.
And yeah, like that was their thing.
Stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like basically how they had so much control, was because they were so advanced in like their military involved with like ships and stuff. So when the Spanish came on the ships, they became stuck in the ice because it was obviously winter.
Mm-hmm.
And they attempted to get onto the ice.
Well, that would have been comical.
Very comical. I'm visualizing flailing.
Like Bambi.
Yes, learning to walk for the first time kind of situation. And the Dutch soldiers came over on ice skates, and they fucked them up. They just gunned them down.
Because they could stand in one place.
Because they could stand in one
Because they
place.
had skates on.
And so they had this like thing where they would maneuver and like kind of like retreat a little bit and then come back and just, and shoot them. And the Spanish lost hundreds. They lost it. Very, very much so. And immediately after, the Spanish placed an order of 7,000 pairs of skates, presumably to equip them for future situations, because, yeah, pretty incredible.
Very.
And just another little one, during the same 80 Years' War, in the Netherlands, there was a battle called the Battle of Zuiderzee.
What was it called?
Zuiderzee. That sounds maybe Dutch, potentially. And it was fought in 1573. And basically it was a Dutch fleet of revolutionaries going against a much better equipped Spanish fleet. And the Dutch won, which is kind of incredible because they were very much outnumbered. But I think there was something to do with winds or something, like changing winds. And then there was like a favourable kind of win for the Dutch.
So they just got lucky.
And they got lucky. So in Hoorn, a town in the northwest of the Netherlands, with just over 73,000 residents, it's renowned for its rich history and was a major seaport during the Dutch Golden Age in the 17th century. They did like an archaeological scan of the sea there.
Mm-hmm.
And the scan covered around 73 square kilometres using scan like sonar. And with like the help of amateur divers and archaeologists and marine archaeologists, they found 10 well-preserved ships and 24 others that were mostly in ruins.
Cool.
That come from this battle.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and what was really lucky was that when these ships sunk, a layer of like seabed sludge kind of covered them all, which led to like them being really well preserved. Recent advancements in sonar technology have significantly boosted naval archaeology. And yeah, I mean, it's like the first time that they've ever found like anything so, I think, like extensive there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they think only a fraction of sites that basically significant sites from all these battles across, like even just in Europe in general, have ever been studied. But now that we've got like better technology,
we also lose so much when it's underwater.
Oh my god, yeah.
Just with like even just the tides,
100%, yeah. It's a
stuff gets moved and worn away,
and even just going down there as divers and physically finding those things, like you have to have such perfect conditions in order to do that. Like it's a very dangerous undertaking. Not my thing.
Oh my god, I would love.
Didn't you say, I think when we were doing the main episode, you talked about how you did some diving?
Yeah, I've done diving before, and there was a field school that I really wanted to go on.
That's right. Greece, yeah.
Which was an underwater GIS field school mapping a port or a port city.
So cool.
Which I'm sure is probably still going on, and I may get to do it one day.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I would really like to do that.
I'm a
on ground
type of person. I'm not a in the air kind of person or in the water kind of person. I just want to be in the dirt where I feel safest.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool, kind of linking like shipwrecks. Again, kind of talk a little bit about that in the pirate episode.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool because I had no idea that happened.
I didn't have any idea that any of those happened.
But the Pastry War, I think that's the...
Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible.
It's like the butterfly effect. Kind of like it was just such a small thing and turned into... Yeah.
Mexico and the French at full war. Incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's us for the first of our battles eps, which I'm sure there will be more of, which we say every episode we do because there's always so much we can talk about.
Yeah. If you have any particular ones that you think that we should talk about, I really wanted to do, and I think next time I really want to talk about like the US.
Yeah,
and
the US, we have to do a medical.
Yes, a medical
one.
So okay, we got the US, we got the medical. We should do another Aztecs.
We need to do that because if anyone's not gonna jump on the Patreon, they'll miss that one. So we should do.
So maybe we should do a poll or something. Let us know which one you want.
Greece.
Yes,
we have in the pipeline.
Greece is in the pipeline.
Yeah,
but. Let us know out of Aztecs, the US, and
medical,
which one you would like to hear more about first. Because I think
we're going to do all of them.
we're going to do it, at some point anyway. But well, I don't know. I want to know what you kind of like think.
Yeah. And oh my goodness.
It's very raining.
It's really happening out there.
Much weather, many rain.
Much weather, many rain. And on that note,
I did a nap. So
we will see you next time.
we'll see you next time.
Bye.